Since Doctor Who's 60th anniversary brought back a very, very old villain from the first Doctor era of the show, I thought it'd be a good idea for this video to go back and review the original 1966 serial, The Celestial Toymaker, where he makes his first appearance. Now, this is a serial that has a really split opinion in the Doctor Who fan community. Some say it's regarded as a lost classic. Some have said that it deserves to be lost, which is something you really only hear for serials like The Wheel in Space or The Space Pirates. But as for me, I don't know. I've never really known where to stand on The Celestial Toymaker. Well, let's start out with the story. First of all, it begins where the last serial, The Ark, left off, where companions Stephen and Dodo, played by Peter Purves and Jackie Lane, discover that the first Doctor, played by William Hartnell, has somehow turned invisible. And they realize that they've landed in a world controlled by a being known as the Celestial Toymaker, played by Michael Gough. And he steals their TARDIS and forces them to play all of these different games to win it back. Basically, Doctor Who's version of Squid Game, where they, for example, in episode 4, they play hopscotch, except the floor is electrified, so if you miss a spot, you're dead. They also play a really eerie version of Blind Man's Bluff. They have to play a pretty morbid kind of musical chairs and other games like that. So, like I said, I mentioned earlier Lost Classic. This is another serial that, for the most part, is missing, only one episode exists, and that's the final episode, episode 4, The Final Test. I'm particularly glad that one in particular exists, but I'll mention why later. And I think the thing that hurt this story more than anything is the fact that most of it is missing. Because this is a serial that relies heavily on visual aids and action. And you might be thinking to yourself, oh, it's a lost story. Well, don't they have telesnaps? Didn't Loose Cannon reconstruct it? You're right, Loose Cannon did reconstruct it, but they had almost nothing to go off of because no telesnaps of this story are known to exist. So all they had to go off of was the surviving episode and a handful of really cool, high-quality production photos, which are in color, amazingly. Now, it is going to get animated it has been animated. The BBC animated this one, and it's probably not going to get released until March. At least that's what Amazon said. Now, I know a fan-made version of episode 1, The Celestial Toy Room, was animated by a really talented YouTuber named Dinopuff, which I have used pictures of in this review. I'll leave a link to it down below if you want to check it out, which I highly suggest you do because he is really talented. It's basically the Web of Fears animation style, but done so much better. Like, the characters don't move like drunk mannequins. They don't move around like this whenever they talk. So yeah, let's talk about the positives of this serial, which, in my opinion, the very best thing about this serial is Michael Gough's performance as the Toymaker. He plays this role so well. I guess he's just really good at playing godlike beings, and you may have recognized the name Michael Gough because he'd go on to play Alfred in the Tim Burton Batman movies. He's so eerily calm. Like, he hardly ever sounds angry, and that's how he speaks for most of the serial. And it's made all the more effective when he actually does raise his voice in clips like these in the final episode.
This place vanishes, then the TARDIS and the rest of us will vanish also.
Correct. That is the price of success. Make your last move, Doctor. Make your last move.
On top of that, a lot of the one-off side characters we meet in this story are pretty entertaining too. There's a pair of clowns named Joey and Clara. Actually, I take that back, because Joey never says a word, and Clara never shuts up, which can be annoying at times, but at the same time isn't that bad. They also meet a king and queen. They also meet these living playing cards, basically, is what they are. They are a king and a queen of hearts. There's also a joker card, who Steven and Dodo meet in the musical chairs game, and there's something so... The queen in particular was probably inspired by the queen from Disney's Alice in Wonderland, because she acts the exact same way. Like, one minute she's calm, the next she's angry about nothing, and she thinks she's larger than life, and actually the king was probably inspired by that movie's King of Hearts too, because he's just forced to go along with whatever she says. And then there's Cyril. Actually, no, there's Cyril, who almost, fun fact, got the BBC in a lot of trouble with Frank Richards' estate, which belonged to a writer named Frank Richards, who created in the early 20th century, a character named Billy Bunter, who looks just like Cyril. I think the only difference is they're in black and white, and one of them has slightly smaller glasses. And fun fact, at the end of episode 3, I think, in the original broadcast, the BBC actually had an audio apology to the Frank Richards estate for allegedly stealing their character. Apparently the BBC almost got sued for it. Yeah, Siller, he's a great character too. He's basically this kid trapped in an adult's body. Like, he looks middle-aged at least, but he acts just like a kid. And it's pretty funny and entertaining at the same time. There's also a living toy soldier and kitchen maid named Sergeant Rugg and Miss Wiggs, who legit just spend the entire serial arguing like a married couple. It's really all they do, just argue constantly, but it is pretty funny to listen to. Now, where this story drags, for me at least, is the Doctor. You noticed I haven't mentioned him much at all in this video, and that's because for episodes 2 and 3, he really doesn't do a whole lot. And I understand why. He's actually not in episodes 2 and 3 at all. And that's because this was around the time where William Hartnell's health was really starting to deteriorate. I think at one point he developed osteosclerosis, which was really affecting his memory. And fun fact, the original intent of the Celestial Toymaker was to replace him with Patrick Troughton, which is why the Toymaker turns him invisible, so that when he'd regain visibility, he'd be Troughton. But Hartnell was able to keep going until the 10th planet, when Troughton did eventually replace him. Now, for the scenes Hartnell is in, he's pretty good. Like, he has such a great hero-villain dynamic with the Toymaker. And this leads to probably my favorite line from the first Doctor.
You cannot leave here until you have.
Your infantile behavior is beyond a joke.
But anyways, back to the story. On top of that, Steven and Dodo, well, actually just Dodo, spends most of this story falling for the dumbest tricks imaginable. For instance, there's a scene in episode 4 where Cyril apparently hurts his foot, only for Dodo to go and help him and discover that he just put red ink in his sock to make it look like blood. Yeah. She's just not really used. She's not used very well in this serial. And Steven spends most of it yelling at all the different side characters they meet, which is really out of character for him. And like I said, one of the things that hurt this serial the most is the fact that it's missing. And I think episode 3 of this serial was hit especially hard by this, because it's just Steven and Dodo walking around this kitchen set, smashing a bunch of stuff, trying to find a key to go to the next room. And it's kinda hard to show a chaotic scene when all you have to go off of is a few production photos and some audio. Speaking of the audio, I listened to this and The Massacre back to back, and it might just be me, but this serial has a slight drop in audio quality compared to, say, The Massacre, which, I don't know, I don't know if that's true, maybe it's just my hearing, but if someone can confirm that, I'd be really thankful. Yeah, this serial, I honestly hope it's one of the ones I hope gets recovered the most, and I think once it gets animated, some people's view of it will go up slightly. Another thing that negates this serial for me is the ending of episode 4. So, the Doctor's playing a trilogic game, which is basically a more... If you ever heard of the Tower of Hanoi puzzle, it's basically like that, just 10 times more complicated and with way more pieces. He spends most of it invisible and silent, and he's left with a hand, and to the story's effect, the invisible hand effect they went with still holds up fairly well. And again, this is where we get another piece of Michael Goff's great performance.
If I allow you to make the last move in there, then you can preset your controls and dematerialize at the same moment that my world vanishes. Then you will escape.
It will make no difference to you. You can build a new world.
Of course. And I look forward to that. I'm bored with this one. But I'm a bad loser, Doctor. I always destroy the destroyer.
So, the Doctor's made all the moves of the trilogic game, and he needs to make the last one in order to win completely, but if he does, the Toymaker's world vanishes, and the Doctor says that the Toymaker is immortal, that he's lasted for hundreds of years, and that he's basically an Eternal, where, if you don't know what an Eternal is, in different legends like Greek, Norse mythology, Eternals are godlike beings who've grown bored of their immortality and basically play with mortals to try and pass the time for entertainment. And the Toymaker is basically that. And so Steven offers to make the last move for him, which is a pretty overlooked scene, in my opinion, because it shows that Steven is really loyal to the Doctor. It shows how far he's come since the chase and the Time Meddler. But then, in a really weird situation, the Doctor somehow mimics the Toymaker's voice to make the game move for him. And then, oh, that was a bad voice crack, sorry about that, guys. And so they dematerialize the ship and leave, while the Toymaker's world is destroyed. So this begs the question, the Doctor can mimic people's voices? Now, it might just be a Time Lord thing like we saw in Time and the Ronnie, where the Ronnie was able to imitate Mel Bush's voice, but it's given no real explanation here. On top of that, the serial ends with the Doctor getting a toothache. A being known for destroying worlds and changing history has a toothache. 10 out of 10 cliffhanger. So, my final verdict is this. The Celestial Toymaker is a story with great ideas, like, it's heavily hinted at throughout, and, well, Dino Puff's animation and the giggle pretty much confirm this, that all the people Steven and Dodo meet throughout the games are actually previous victims of the Toymaker, who the only reason they're playing these games are so that they can leave. Now that honestly sounds really macabre to me, but it's never really expanded upon, although the giggle did a pretty good job of expanding on that. And like I said, Toymaker's performance is fantastic. The Dr. Hartnell has some great moments, and we have some cool side characters, but just the fact that it's missing really knocks the serial down for me because I think it's all right. It's 4 parts. It's a fairly easy watch, but it's got some great moments. Easy watch, but I don't know. It's just it's average, is what I'm trying to say. It's an average serial for an otherwise pretty good season. Like I said, once it gets animated, maybe people's opinions of it will change, and if it gets recovered, maybe people will like it more. And I do plan on making a video on the animation once it comes out. But yeah, I'm going to end this video here, guys. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so you never miss any new videos. Like I said, I think the Celestial Toymaker is an alright story. I want to know what you all think of the story in the comments down below. And before I leave, make sure to check out Dino Puff's animation of the serial. He did a really great job of it. He's supremely talented. And I'd honestly say it looks better than the one the BBC made. Yeah, I said it. And yeah, before I leave, I said in my last video that this wasn't going to be a dinosaur-related video. Well, I was wrong. Once again, huge shout out to The Last Thylacine. I will leave a link to the Discord server where he is making the remade version of Jurassic Park Builder. Make sure to subscribe to him, donate to him on Boosty, join the Discord server. We would really appreciate it if you did. And I hope you're all having a very happy new year, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.